Good evening and welcome to the City of Pasco Council meeting. The council thanks you for being a part of our city government at regular meetings. Part of our city government. At regular meetings, the city council takes formal actions on items, holds public hearings, and conducts other business of the city. Agenda packets are available on the City of Pasco's website at www.pasco-wa. I don't know what's going on with me tonight. Agenda, agenda packets are available on the City of Pasco's website at www.pasco-wa.gov/agenda. Please note that the City Council meetings continue to be held remotely and may be accessed through GoToWebinar. This meeting is being also televised live on Pasco TV, channel 191, on the Spectrum cable in Pasco and Richland, and also streamed on the city's Facebook page, website, and YouTube channel. This and previous council meeting video is available on the city's website. Through proclamation number 20-28, Governor Inslee extended the directive making temporary changes to the Open Public Meetings Act. These virtual meetings will continue until the OPMA restrictions are lifted. And lastly, the public may submit their comments and or questions for items not on the agenda by contacting the city manager or city clerk or using the feedback form on the city's website. And to continue our notification and making an announcement that we are wearing our masks. We are more than 6 feet apart. We have our hand sanitizers and lotion in the back. And we are constantly thinking about maintaining a safe environment and our social distancing in these chambers. So thank you very much for that. Next, we'll go and request a roll call, please.
Councilmember Alvarado.
Present.
Councilmember Maloney.
Present.
Councilmember Milne.
Present.
Councilmember Roach.
Present.
Councilmember Serrano.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Barajas.
Present.
And Mayor Martinez.
Present.
7 is accounted for.
Thank you for joining us tonight. Should we rise for the flag salute, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And next, we will go to item number 4 on the consent agenda. All items listed under the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the City Council and will be enacted by roll call vote as one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items. If further discussion is desired by our council members or the public, the item will be removed from the consent agenda to the regular agenda and, considered separately. 4A, first on the consent agenda, is approval of meeting minutes, and that's to approve the meeting minutes of the Pasco City Council remote meeting held on August 3rd, 2020, and remote workshop held on August 10th, 2020. Item B, bills and communication, to approve claims in the total amount of $4,836,849.73, and to approve bad debt write-offs for utility billing, ambulance, cemetery, general accounts, miscellaneous accounts, and municipal court accounts receivable in the total amount of $140,813.32. And of that amount, authorize 0 to be turned over for collections. Item C, 2021 Community Development Block Grant, Annual Work Plan and Allocations, to approve resolution number 3977, approving the program year 2021 Community Development Block Grant Allocations and Annual Work Plan. Item D, the 2021 Home Annual Work Plan and Allocation, to approve resolution number 3978, approving federal 2021 Home, HOME, Annual Work Plan and Allocations. So with that, that is a consent agenda. If nobody has any reason to want to change that, I would be willing to entertain a motion.
I move to approve the consent agenda as read.
There's been a motion to approve the consent agenda as ready. Could I hear a second?
Councilmember Maloney, I'll second that.
Councilmember Maloney seconds that. So with that, can we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Serrano,
Yes.
Alvarado,
Yes.
Maloney,
Yes.
Milne,
Yes.
Roach,
Yes.
Barajas,
Yes.
and Martinez.
Yes.
Great.
Passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Next on the agenda is the proclamations and acknowledgements, and there's none. Reports from committees and/or officers. Anybody, is there anybody that would like to report anything they done last week? I would just like,
Councilmember Alvarado.
yes, go ahead, Mr. Alvarado.
Just a quick report, attended a meeting for Benton Franklin Transit, and Benton Franklin Transit is alive and well, but you know, they're definitely also hit by COVID and really trying to figure out what decisions they need to make to continue moving forward. Not too much to report right now, but just keep your ears to the ground. We're hoping that the pandemic doesn't hit our transit in too heavy of a burden, but we do have, you know, folks who have gotten sick and things like that, and really want to make sure that all our passengers and all of our staff are also taken care of. So just reporting that things are continuing, but ridership obviously is very low, and so you know, that's something that's starting to take an uptick, but you know, it's definitely nowhere near the normal ridership.
Thank you, Mr. Alvarado. Appreciate that. I'll just report that, again, attended 2 meetings last week with some of the other elected officials, and I will tell you that the numbers for positive cases are being reduced, which is a good direction. I will tell you that as elected officials, we are working very hard in spite of this pause that we're in right now put by the governor. We are still working with the health districts to try to find ways to help our businesses and to but to continue to strive to have businesses be able to survive, and coming up with ideas to get them, you know, continuing with more customers and keeping the economy going in our city as best we can. It is a lot of work, and sometimes it feels like we're not making progress, but we're working hard to try to make that happen. So, but most importantly, if we just can continue to get these case numbers down and continue to do what we're doing, and be respectful of others and social distancing and using protection, that we will soon find some relief so we can get back to where we were perhaps someday real soon. Also, I want to say thank you to the subcommittees that we just met here earlier today to select people for some committees that we will be interviewing at a later date. So thank you very much for your time and for making it efficient and getting through it very quickly so we can get on with our business. So thank you for that. With that, if there's no other council member, then we'll just move on to the next item, a 6B, the General Fund Monthly Report for July. Mrs. Sigdale, do you have any comments?
No additional comments, Mr. Mayor, other than what is already on the report. We are seeing fairly stable revenue sources despite of COVID, but there's a lot of uncertainty in the market, as we have mentioned before, with the federal and state support. The sales tax still seems to be stable at this point, but we are anticipating lower than expected numbers in that category in future, but we're just not sure when that future is going to be at this point.
Well, thank you for that. Any council members have any questions or comments for Ms. Sigdale? All right, if not, thank you very much for that. Next, we go to hearings and council actions on ordinances and resolutions relating thereto, and there's none listed. ordinances and resolutions not relating to hearings. And we have, the first one, 8A Capital Improvement Plan. Mrs. Sigdale, do you have any comments or anything you would like to provide before we go on to this, motion?
Mr. Mayor, the only change from what was presented last week was a correction, which was a entry error essentially from $600,000 to $60,000 for a project. But other than that, no other changes to what was presented to last week.
Okay. Well, that's a big difference.
It is a big difference when you really think about it, 540,000, but very easy error to make. So I apologize for that.
All right. Mr. Zabel, you have any additional comments?
No comments. Commend staff for the work they did putting that together and thank the council for their consideration.
All right. I know it was a lot of work that got put into that. Any other council members would like to make a comment? If not, then I'd like to maybe request a motion.
I move to approve resolution number 3979, approving the capital improvement plan for calendar years 2021 through 2026.
There's been
I'll
a,
second that.
there's been a motion to approve resolution number 3979, approving the capital improvement plan for calendar year 2021 to 26, and it's been seconded by Councilwoman Roach. So all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The capital improvement plan passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Next, we'll move right along to number 9, unfinished business. Nothing to report at this time that I can see, Mr. Zabel. Good. So we'll move on to new business, the Biennial City Council Retreat, and I would just move that right along to Mr. Zabel.
Okay, so we get to, thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor and Council. We get to kill two birds with one stone tonight. And by having this little discussion here tonight, I get to cut about 10 minutes off your morning, Friday, or your evening, Friday evening. So we might get done a little earlier on Friday evening. But just by way of introduction, the City Council's Bino retreat. This is typically conducted on the even year following a city council election. The reason being is our council elections happen on odd years, and it gives new council members the opportunity to weigh in early in their term and not have to put up with former council members' goals and plans. So they have an opportunity to weigh in early. We have had a lot of turnover in the council, obviously, in the last few years, so that's been great for our new members. This year, we do have Councilmember Roach. I know it seems like years since you've been on the council, but it's really only been about 8 months, and we're a little late in the process for our biennial retreat because of COVID. We'd had it scheduled, I think the agenda report had mentioned we had that scheduled in back in March, about a week before our event. The governor's stay-at-home order went into effect, and then to complicate things, the restrictions on Open Public Meetings Act early on, until, matter of fact, till just a few weeks ago in July, precluded the city from covering anything more than quote-unquote necessary or routine. And part of that is because it was difficult for the public to be able to be part of that. Obviously our long-range planning retreat would be open to the public, and with the difficulty of not being able to actually attend, as the public's been able to in the past, that restriction was in place. As I said, it got lifted, and I think part of the reason it's been lifted is because I think just local governments and all governments have just gotten better at being able to provide that kind of access electronically for the public, which we will be doing Friday evening and Saturday as part of your retreat as well. So a little bit on the goals. Primary purpose of the biennial retreat is to develop goals that are used to guide the city over the biennium and oftentimes beyond. One of the goals you're going to see a significant change in, at least proposed to you, is Lewis Street overpass. And that's been in your goal statement for many, many years. And the goal statement this year is going to read something like complete construction of Lewis Street overpass, which, you know, your goal has never said that before. So demonstrate some real progress. And then there's other goals that are very, very narrow or very small project specific that may surface up to the top. But nonetheless, regardless of the type of goal, the council's goals that are filtered by which, you know, council decisions, staff decisions, budgets, programs and initiatives are strained through during that biennium. And so it's a big feeder into the biennial budget. Your goal statement today, and I think most of the council is very familiar with it, has evolved from what was previously kind of a list of projects or initiatives, and it's become a little bit more sophisticated to its current form, where you have basically 6 major goal priorities, each with an overarching goal statement underneath it. You know, our 2 sessions ago, council spent quite a bit of time working on those goal statements. And then under each of those is a more specific list of initiatives or projects or aspirations. Again, some very broad, some very focused, that the council develops during the goal setting retreat or updates. The development of the city council goals is the first step in the biennial budget process, and I mentioned that before. We adopted the capital improvement plan this evening. The goal statement is typically a big feeder into that because there's projects or initiatives that may or may not make it into the goal statement, but they have plenty of conversation, and the goal statement covers something like, say, connectivity, or it covers something like bike and ped mobility in the city, which came out in our national citizen survey, as you'll recall. And you'll also recall that in our TIP and our CIP, we have a number of new bike and ped projects identified. So, you know, we tried to do the best without having a specific updated goal statement from council, just based on some council actions that we've taken on other long-range planning efforts. But we're excited about being able to get this long-range plan put together. I want to just share a little bit with the public about the information the council has walking into this two-day session. So in developing the goals, council's been informed and has available to them a lot of information. So you have obviously your prior goals and updates on those goals. So you're going to get a list of your goals with everything that's occurred associated with those goals over the past 2 years. And this year we're doing something a little bit different, just to try to ease it for council because of the virtual nature of the meeting and not being in the same room and the difficulty that presents to communication. We're going to have maybe some recommended changes to the goals, so you can kind of see what those are, and not intended to guide council, but really just intended to elicit, you know, kind of further the conversation to reflect progress that perhaps has been made on certain goals. You have the results of the National Citizen Survey, which we had I think a very thorough review of the National Community Survey just recently during council, and that information is certainly available. We have some community input that we received at 3 different community listening sessions prior to the stay-home order, which we had 2, one I think out at Tierra Vida, the other at Track, and then we did have a business one as well at I think it was the Holiday Inn Express. So we have some good community input from those. We'll have the information from there available to us. You'll get what are called issue papers from staff. So we have some issue papers from staff about some initiatives they feel council ought to consider as part of their goal-setting retreat. And then each member certainly may have noted, whether it's during your campaigns or just with your own community outreach during your course of business, issues that members of the community may have raised to you that you may want to discuss with your colleagues. We do have 2 pieces of correspondence that are in the packet tonight. The council will have available for consideration at the meeting. And then finally, the retreat will offer council an opportunity just to discuss ideas and concepts not on a formal council agenda. It's difficult, particularly right now, to have a lot of give and take discussions in these council meetings because the way the governor's orders are, they are still fairly limited as what we can get into. And some of those conversations may themselves lead to a new goal. So as I mentioned, we will be virtual and spend a little time explaining why that is. And for the public, certainly there was a desire on the part of the council to meet in person and to even allow the public to meet in person in a way that would be socially distanced and safe and so forth. But unfortunately, that is in direct contravention to the governor's orders, and we really don't have a choice, unfortunately. And I know that's difficult for members of the public, it is for staff, and I know it is for council just based on the comments I've heard, so. Let's see, council, I just share the overview of the agenda real quick here. So we'll be convening at 5:30 on August 21st, Friday. And as I mentioned, we'll have an overview and purpose of the retreat, which we're covering a lot of that tonight. We are going to get a training session on cultural perspectives and competency from a gentleman named Greg Taylor, who's a very experienced facilitator and has expertise in this area. Also has the benefit of being a former city council member himself, and so has some firsthand experience in your role as an elected official, and I think he comes very highly recommended. And then we're going to talk a little bit about accomplishments and progress on the 2018-2019 goals and COVID implications going forward. And that may be staff capacity, because of reallocation of staff to deal with COVID issues, as well as financial impacts we talked about a little bit a few minutes ago. We'll do the issue papers at 8 a.m. on Saturday, August 22nd, and followed by a discussion of current goals and potential modifications or to those goals. And then discussion of new topics around the noontime with a bit of a break at 11:30. And then we'll do a brainstorm session and a wrap up. And the plan is to be completed before 4 p.m. So that's a lot of time on a video conference. So, but with that, happy to answer any questions of council. And I know there are some folks that I think are signed up to speak tonight as well.
Thank you, Mr. Zabel. Appreciate it. Yeah, it's been kind of sad for me. This is one of the things that I look forward to. I've been in a couple of retreats over the past the period that I've been serving on this council, and but we work with what we got, and we're going to do it virtually this weekend, and looking forward to meeting. I know that perhaps there's going to be some. It won't be quite as effective, maybe, or emotional, or passionate. We're not being face to face, but we're gonna do what we got to do to get the job done, and try to direct our city in a positive direction the next year and a half to 2 years. So, with that, tonight we have a couple of people that are with us tonight that would like to speak, that have submitted a request. And tonight we'll start with Naima Chambers-Smith. Are you on the line tonight?
Do you want us to solicit input from council first, or jump to the members of the public, Mayor?
Well, I was gonna have the council comment afterwards. Would you like to go first, Mr. Serrano?
No, that's fine. I'm just kind of trying to figure the flow out. Thank you.
Okay. Well, Naima, are you online?
Yes, I'm on.
Well, good evening, and thank you for calling in tonight. Would you like to share something with the council?
Yes, please. So good evening. My name is Naima Chambers-Smith, and on behalf of the Tri-Cities Collective Black Voice, I want to thank you for your time. As stated in our letter, collectively, we are advocating for the Black community with the goal of attaining racial equity. I'd like to stress that in no way Are we asking to abolish police? We are not looking to negate the experience of other communities of color, more specifically the Latinx community. Nor are we looking to dismantle the progress we've made in establishing equity and economic growth within Pasco for the Latinx community. We recognize that there are some similar circumstances amongst both communities where systemic racism is concerned. Our inquiries into the operations of the city's nonprofit is to create awareness and highlight opportunities for improvement. The City of Pasco stated in their resolution number 3968 that they acknowledge, and I quote, that despite the great American ideals of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, these have historically and continually been denied, some based solely on race throughout the country, end quote. We know this is to be true throughout our country, and Pasco is no exception. The idea that with hard work, a person can own a home, start a business, and grow a nest egg for generations to draw upon has been defied repeatedly by the U.S. government's own decrees that have denied wealth-building opportunities to Black Americans. The City of Pasco also affirmed in Resolution 3820 that they will serve the entire community and seeks to provide equal protection to all residents and services to those that live here. The City of Pasco has expressed the desire to be an inclusive community. Members of the City Council have expressed a desire to engage and support the Black community. However, the Black community does not view Pasco as inclusive, and this has been historically proven through the city's lack of support, especially where budget allocations are concerned. Our ultimate priority and our goal is for Pasco and the Tri-Cities as a whole to become an inclusive community where all people, regardless of race, ethnicity, culture, and all areas of diversity are given opportunities that are equitable. A community where all feel supported, welcomed, valued, and respected. Nevertheless, without ensuring that the Black community is supported, recognized, and provided equity, inclusivity is not possible. Therefore, we see this as an opportunity for the City of Pasco to be progressive leaders by implementing the ideas presented to create positive change. It should be noted that in addition to those names and organizations signed to the letter, there are over 600 community members that have signed a petition in support of the collective Black Voices list of ideas presented. Those signatures can be obtained at the link previously provided to City Council. The community can also use the link to the letter and petition, and which can be found at www.change.org/Tri-Cities CBV. That's C as in Charlie, B as in Bravo, V as in victory. Thank you.
Well, thank you for that, Naima. That was well said, and appreciate your phone call, and definitely take that into consideration. And
Thank you.
all right, well, thank you, and have a good evening. Next on the list of people who would like to express themselves is Irving Brown. Irving Brown, are you on the line tonight?
Yes, I am on the line. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Brown.
Good evening. I did sign up. If it was an open forum, I'm not sure, but Naima did an excellent job at presenting the collective Black Voices, which I'm a part of. So I will leave the statement as given, and I just appreciate the time that you offered me tonight.
Well, wonderful. You're welcome, and thank you for participating and being on the meeting with us. We take these things.
Very well.
Thank you very much. We take these things very serious and appreciate your voice and try to do the best we can to accommodate everybody in the city. So thank you for that, Mr.
Appreciate your time. Thank you.
You're welcome. Next on the list is Eloise Sparks. Are you on the line tonight? Eloise?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Good evening.
Okay. Good evening. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful.
Well, thank you. I appreciate this opportunity, and I'm on because I am in support of the ideas that were presented to the City Council by the Tri-Cities Collective Black Voices. So I'm just here in support. Naima presented it all very well, and I don't think I need to reiterate that. So we appreciate the time that you've given us.
Thank you, Mrs. Sparks. Appreciate it very much. And so next we'll move right along to Mr. Aaron Beasley. Are you on the line tonight?
and I'm just here to show support
Okay,
for this group. That's all I have to say.
all right. Thank you, Mr. Beasley, and good to hear from you. Next, we'll move on to Mr. Leonard Moore.
Hello, this is Leonard Moore,
Yes,
and
Mr.
I'm on also a member of Access, but we're supporting the collective Black voice, and we have some reasons for that. And I was just going to read off a statement that I hope all will appreciate. In a democracy, the majority usually holds power. With power comes many responsibilities. Those in power must guarantee the rights of all people, however small in number. Those in power have the responsibility to include those who have been historically excluded from access to all that the country, state, and city have to offer. And these are our reasons for supporting the collective Black voice budget ideas.
Yes, sir. Well, thank you, Mr. Moore. Appreciate that, and take that into consideration. And appreciate all the support tonight from that organization. Mr. Jamie Torres, are you on the line tonight? Mr. Torres, are you on the line? He's muted. We show that you're muted, Mr. Torres. We'll give it about 10 more seconds. Well, Mr. Torres, I will come back to you, give you another opportunity if you're having technical difficulties. We'll move right along to Mr. Felix Vargas. Mr. Vargas, are you on the line tonight? Mr. Vargas, it appears that you're muted. And while you are trying to get unmuted, Mr. Vargas, there was a couple of other people that put their names on the list that I didn't mention because there was a confirmation. But I'm going to go through and mention Rika Robinson, Charvella McGarry, Edmund Daniel, and Hazel Daniels. Is any one of you on the line tonight?
We do have Rika Robinson on the line.
Pardon me?
We do have Rika Robinson on the line.
Okay, Rika Robinson, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. Good evening, and thank you for joining us tonight.
I figured it out. Yes, I am here on behalf of the collective Black voice as well. And as everybody else has stated, Naima said it perfectly, and I'm just here to back that up as well.
Perfect. Yes, really, thank you for showing your support tonight, and Naima did an excellent job, and she was heard very well. So, is that all you had, Rika? Okay. So, would you like to give either Jamie Torres or Mr. Felix Vargas an opportunity to get unmuted?
Hi, can you hear
me? Who do we have on the line?
Hi, this is Jaime Torres.
Jaime Torres, good evening. How are you doing?
Good evening. Good. Sorry, I couldn't find the mute button on here.
Okay.
Well, anyway, thank you folks for allowing me to speak. I appreciate it. I am also in support of the beautiful letter that Naima wrote. I mean, I could have said better myself. My only thing I want to add to that is I feel that the Black and Brown community can do a lot more to work together and to open up a proper dialogue so we can better understand each other And I feel that we shouldn't be like taking each other like down in public on Facebook or any of the other types of social media. Any type of attack really just do not do us any justice, or it's not fair for everybody that's working hard out there. And I feel that, like I said, once we open a proper dialogue, I feel that the Black and brown community can work together in a better way. So thank you guys for letting me speak.
Thank you, Mr. Torres. I sure appreciate your comments. I agree. As long as we keep things professional and respect for one another and a desire to learn from one another, we could, again, embrace our similarities and respect our differences and just move forward to make our community a better place for everyone. And I appreciate your comments. Mr. Vargas, I'd like to give you one more opportunity to see if you can get unmuted. Well, we will try to give him another opportunity. I think we're having technical difficulties with Mr. Vargas, but council, I would like to open it up for the council to give yourself an opportunity to comment or have any questions. Who would like to begin?
Councilmember Serrano, I'm happy to start.
Okay, Mr. Serrano.
I appreciate that staff has put this together, but in my opinion, to try to accomplish a day and a half worth of goal setting over the course of 2 days electronically, it's not going to be as effective as it should be, as it ought to be. You know, one of the things that I looked at was my experience when most of us were first elected, at least 5 of the 7 of us. We all came on board at the same time. And that was really the opportunity, in my opinion, for a lot of us to connect, to break the ice, to get to know how one another worked. That will not happen. That will not happen electronically. I know I struggle with these meetings. I struggle with when do I interject? When are my kids not screaming? When is it appropriate for my kids to even enter my room? You know, when we're in executive session, I've kicked my 4-year-old out. She doesn't understand what we're talking about. But I have a certain duty, right? So I look at it and I question, what can we truncate from this? Could we just accomplish the preliminary setup through Friday night and collectively looking at the binders, and maybe later in the fall or the spring or winter, we can get together in person? I think there are still a lot of gaps to the goals that we have set 2 years ago that we're still trying to achieve. So I don't see a particular need to reset goals and to retemper things. I think, again, for me, a big part of this is the opportunity to collaborate in person. And with that missing, I just don't see a tremendous value in putting 12 hours in together. Again, I appreciate staff. I appreciate that we're trying to work within the constraints that we have, but I do not see this as effective enough to merit 12 hours. I'll do it. I'll do it not wholeheartedly, admittedly. I'll do my best to care because I care about the city and I care about each one of you. But I mean, it's going to be a Saturday of Zoom meetings and a Friday of Zoom meetings. And again, I'm happy to do it, but I know there's going to be a tap out point where I'm just not going to be, I'll be physically present, but I just don't see the entire value of it. So that's my take. I don't know that I can give you any direction other than certainly it sounds like Friday, the cultural competency assessment should go forward. I mean, to do it for 4 hours, I think that's totally doable. And then look at maybe then kick the bucket of some of the goal setting down the road to give us some time to digest those exercises. Maybe that's where we set it. Maybe we do a half day or take presentations. I don't know. I don't have an answer, but to me, the answer is not to go forward with the full slate. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Serrano. Anybody else? Well, if nobody else has any, go ahead.
And
Go ahead.
I just want to say I appreciate Councilmember Serrano's honesty. I'm feeling very much the same way about a full day and a half of a virtual platform to do something that I consider is very important and more important to do in person. And I think that there's merit in breaking it up into more into bite-sized amounts, maybe departmentally. So I appreciate the idea. I don't know how other council members feel about it, but I definitely know for as far as actually saturating all the information and then adding the fact that it's virtual, that it might prove difficult to do. So, yep, just wish we could do it in person.
All right, thank you, Councilwoman Roach. Anybody else have a comment?
Councilmember Maloney.
Yes, Mr. Maloney.
I echo those sentiments, but I guess at the end of the day, for me, we haven't had an opportunity for our new council member to be able to help set our agenda and goals. So unfortunately, she's currently living under what our past council, talked about and decided, and I am a little concerned that that's a little unfair. That's certainly not the experience that the rest of us got. Was we were able to put a mark on things pretty immediately. So 12 hours of video conferencing over the weekend sounds, we'll say, tedious at best. But I guess where my perspective is there's some grueling jobs that need to get done, and this is our job. To help set these goals, to help set the direction. I don't know how else we can be prepared, staff can be prepared for their biennial budget without us being able to provide some direction as to strategically, where do we want the city to go? If we can try to streamline it in some fashion, because the socializing aspects are simply not going to be effective. I'm interested in understanding how we can maybe tailor this a little differently. But at the end of the day, if we don't give staff direction on how to set the biennial budget for the next 2 years, then we're not meeting the need we have to meet. So hopefully we can thread that needle a little bit of what's effective and what's necessary, even if it's going to be painful. And I believe firmly that it will be. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Maloney. Anybody else before I give my thoughts? So I totally agree. It's going to be very difficult, but I don't know how else at this time to deal with at least giving some direction. And I think that Mr. Moser has done an excellent job in the past. I mean, nobody's questioning that. But I guess I would ask Mr. Zabel to maybe communicate with him and take that into consideration, because 12 hours, there's no doubt that it's going to be, I like pulling teeth, but the reality is that we do need to provide some direction, and maybe we can figure out a way to at least get a start on it, and maybe the full 12 hours isn't the answer, but I don't know either, other than it wouldn't be fair to staff to not give them some type of direction so that they can have their goals, and anything that they do, they would just be put in a place where we would criticize, well, why didn't it do it like this, and why didn't this happen? And this gives us an opportunity to provide some direction. So I'm open for perhaps some reshuffling of events if we can get it done more expeditiously and not maybe spend the 12 hours together. But at a minimum, we need to get those things nailed down that that staff needs for guidance and for help, because we can't expect them to do it all. So with that, I'm willing to do whatever it takes to get the job done, and I know you all are as well, and you've expressed that. I wish we had all the answers. Nobody expected this to happen, and trust me when I tell you, when I was privileged enough to get this position, when I was selected by you guys, I didn't intend it to be this way. The retreat was a big deal, but unfortunately, we have what we have, and we gotta use the tools we got. And we have to at least make an attempt, and do the best we can. And, you know, we can work together, to see how it'll go, and we can just play it by ear. So, that's my sentiment. Anybody else, wanna finish, have any other comments?
This is Councilmember Alvarado.
Yes, Mr. Alvarado.
Just to be short, I think this is those situations where we have to make the path by walking it. And so whatever it takes, if we get it done here, if we need to spend even more time, this is what our city needs, and we need to lead by setting our priorities.
Thank you, Mr. Alvarado. So with that,
This Councilmember Maloney, I just had one more thing to add, if you don't mind.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Maloney.
One thing that Mr. Serrano said that I think was really key is that team building is essential. And as soon as we have an opportunity to be able to, regardless of this upcoming session and what work we need to do to set priorities, I think it would behoove us to, when we can meet in person, I don't want to say as soon as, but let's as close as possible. We do have that session, and we do have some work together. And if we need to revise the goals, and if we need to revise the budget accordingly, I think that would be prudent and well worth the effort. As soon as it can really, you know, like I said, form those good working relationships that really only come when you're have some time in person with somebody. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Maloney.
So this is Councilman Serrano. I do have an option B, and I haven't fully thought it through. But in the event that we were to try to take a retreat outside of the Tri-Cities, I know there are some optics issues there, but there are other counties where we could all meet collectively in one room, even if we're socially distanced. You know, I've considered the fact that, you know, obviously the governor's orders prohibits a certain number in meetings, but again, that would be limited to certain counties. So I don't know if Walla Walla is an option or another nearby county it's even in phase 3. But I certainly would be open to the option of traveling. Quite frankly, I would rather get up early Saturday morning, make a 2-hour trek if I had to be physically present. And I recognize there are some legal questions there. I also recognize that, you know, one of the things I've thought through is it seems like under the governor's order, these violations, if any were to occur, aren't necessarily citizen suit type issues. We've seen in case law that the governor has no mechanism to enforce. That's not his duty. So it seems to me we're pretty limited to risk from the Attorney General's office. It is an election year, and it might be a hot ticket item for him. I don't know, but I would find it difficult for anyone to press if we went to a county that was open to host an in-person meeting. That's my take.
Well, thank you, Mr. Serrano. I'm just trying to think, Mr. Zabel, what are the opportunities to start on Friday and maybe have a discussion? I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, a lot of it is going to be driven by, I think, how the council, how deep you want to get in. So one of the reasons we're going through and trying to update goals that make sense is to try to save you some time so that it isn't a 12-hour effort. But you do have a lot of things that have come up. And that's part of the reason why I'm trying to find some shortcuts for you to cut that time down. You have a lot of things that have come up over this biennium that are not in your goal statement that you may want to consider. Breed specific dog, language, marijuana. There's a dozen things on my board that I wrote down today every time I thought of something that had come up to get ready, and I'll have that list for you. And I'm sure you know, individual council members have those, and that's part of what the late morning afternoon session was going to be about, is walking through those council walking through those to see what things, you know, that you may want to put on your goal statement. Plus, you do have 2 documents that you were provided from the community that we spoke about, one of them tonight. And I know Mr. Vargas was on to speak, I'm assuming towards the other one, but so there's a little bit of unscripted work to do. And to me, that's updating our goals right now, I don't think are that difficult. And I think you'll be fairly satisfied. And I think we're going to go through that pretty quickly. There may be a few things that council members are focused on that they may want to add to, right? Or things that maybe not in there that they want to add a certain way, you know, sign code issues or things like that. But I think for the most part, you're going to be pretty satisfied with the goals. And so it's really those issues that we don't have policies for right now that have kind of come up over the interim that I think you're going to wind up spending most of your time on.
Okay.
And I agree. I mean, we did look at the possibility of going outside the county, you know, just evaluated that and talked to some folks about it. I think council would really have to consider the optics of that, and I think you'd have to go fairly far to do it. You know, Walla Walla County is phase 2 county right now, and you have to be phase 3 to have enough room for folks. And then there's the connectivity. We'd need to make sure we had a facility where we had the kind of connectivity that the public would be able to listen in, as a minimum, that they'd be able to listen in to the meeting, because this is an open meeting. It's not executive session level stuff, so we don't get to just meet by ourselves. None of this is executive session for the retreat. So we'd have to be able to support that as well in a remote location.
That makes sense. So it sounds to me like we should continue forward with what we got in place. The other thing that really irritates me is that we have a beautiful Marriott hotel that I was actually I got to take a individual tour of right by the airport, the new Marriott, and it is an absolute phenomenal facility, and I'm just so impressed with what it has to offer. And I would encourage everyone to go take a look when they get a chance, because it's well worth your trip. It's to my knowledge at this point, it's the only 24-hour Starbucks available that you can get, and there's so many things in there that you would have never thought, I would have never thought that would be in a hotel. So I would encourage everybody to go do that, and I would prefer to just hash it out here and wait till we can give our local businesses the business of an opportunity to have us use their facility and get the things done that we need to get. I just think it would get too complicated, and unfortunately, it's what we got to work with today. And anyway, those are my thoughts. So unless somebody wants, to make a motion to change it, or to do something different, I think it would behoove us to just continue and try to get through this as best we can and just get as far as we can get. And we can only do what we can do. But I think that it would, at the end, we'll be able to provide a product that the staff can use. So anybody else have any comments?
Mayor Martinez, I guess the only thing I would throw out there is to make it more palatable, maybe three sessions of 4 hours, get it done this month. And then, I think that makes it easier to swallow, to, be sitting in front of a screen that long, and to also be generating good ideas after a certain point. I mean, we know how we do at a 7 p.m. meeting that starts at 6 and it goes till 10. And by the end of it, everybody's just like, oh my gosh, when is this going to be over? So that's one suggestion, I guess, is to add an additional session and break up, that 8-hour session into 2. So.
Okay, well, thank you for that. I don't know if that's something that Anybody else, how does everybody else feel about that?
This Councilmember Maloney, I'd be amenable to something like that if we can do maybe the Friday evening session, maybe a 4-hour session on Saturday morning. Maybe that's all to get us ready to think about it for a week or two and then finalize our goals in at a following week or so. If that's possible, I know that city staff has put a lot of work into preparing for this, and so well, it's our prerogative to derail them. I would hate to do so unnecessarily, so I do that all with the caveat of that Mr. Zabel doesn't swear at me tonight when he leaves the meeting.
Mr. Zabel, do you think that's a possibility?
Yeah, we could look at shortening what I'm hearing is shortening the Saturday session up. If, I mean, we've typically, historically, at least I can't say historically too far back, but the three of these that I've been in, 2 of my 6 years here, typically we're done by 2:00. And as I said, one of the reasons why I'm doing the work that I'm doing on the goals update, and one of the ideas I had listening to the discussion tonight was maybe talking about the list of things that maybe we need to add to goals up front and doing that piece Saturday morning. And in the meantime, you'll have that goals update, and if there's any concerns, we can just touch on those, and we may be done. I mean, I've not been to one of these retreats past 1:30 under normal conditions, and that's without the prep work that we're doing on this one. So, but maybe we use Friday morning for those things that aren't in your goal statement that we need to put something together with the 2 proposals we received in the packet, as well as some of the things that have come up over the biennium. And if we can get some direction on that, and if council wants to have a longer discussion on the goals update document that I'm going to provide you tomorrow, then we can maybe move that out to a later date and be done a little earlier.
Okay.
That may be a way to do it.
Okay.
But I really think it's important we talk about the things we don't have goals for just yet that have been out, to determine if the majority wants to develop a goal for some of the things that have come up, or whether they're not wanting to address them in their goal statement.
Okay.
So,
all right. Well, I appreciate that, Dave, and making those accommodations. Anybody else have any comments?
Yeah, so one quick question for Mr. Zabel. Are you soliciting then feedback on those written documents that you'll be providing to us, so that might help cue you for Saturday, or would you prefer to get that at a later date?
no, I'd be fine with feedback if there's some revisions I could make that would expedite things. And I know I'm doing that with opening up the possibility of 7 people giving me revisions, throughout the week. So.
Right. No,
Yeah.
I recognize we probably won't be all speaking to the same thing, but we may be able to give you variations on a theme where you could strike a chord.
Yeah, I that would be helpful, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll try to do my homework then. I'm not just going to complain. I'm going to do the work.
And we should expect to get those documents tomorrow, is that correct?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm looking forward to it, regardless.
All right. Okay, well, thank you, council. Thank you, Mr. Zabel, for that. And looking forward to getting those documents and seeing and meeting with Dave Mercier on Friday. Well, with that, we will move right along with item number 11, miscellaneous discussion. I think, did we cover all the miscellaneous? And is there an executive session for tonight? Not this evening. And there's our signal. So with that said, council, thank you very much. Again, want to appreciate everybody who called in and support tonight. I regret not being able to hear Mr. Vargas's information, but he has sent us some, and I feel like we might have touched on your sentiments, Mr. Vargas, and where you're at with the community. So thank you for trying, and looking forward to hear from you later. So with that, we'll see you next week. So this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.